Welcome to the Lightforge. This is Adwicta.
This is Merps. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are having fun with whatever you're playing. It's probably Battlegrounds. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's if it's not Battlegrounds, it should be Battlegrounds because one, you're listening to us, so you're playing in the current arena meta, which is we'll say one, it's not that great. It's not terrible, but it's not that great. And two, Blizzard's clearly abandoned everything else. Like, I don't even feel bad. Like, even if I was an arena player and I didn't give a crap about Battlegrounds, I wouldn't even feel bad because Blizzard has equally given up on Constructed this time.
Yeah.
It's
look,
just, yeah.
Obviously, I don't play Constructed, but if you are on Twitter, if you are on the subreddit, you hear lots of people complaining that the Constructed meta, because of Evolve and Shamans, it is terrible. It is unfun to play. And if you play Arena, I think you guys have heard the complaints as well. So it creates a perfect storm for everyone to flock to Battlegrounds. It's new, it's shiny, it's actually fun. I don't need to tell you guys that because I told you guys that in the past two podcasts.
Yeah.
So hopefully you guys are having fun there. There was an update to Battlegrounds.
There was, and we'll talk about the update first, briefly, before we get to the bulk of this podcast, which is going to be arena-centric for once again. We'll just to remind you guys, this is still an arena podcast for the most part. We're just caught up in Battlegrounds because it's, everyone's caught up in Battlegrounds. But you'll find the arena content rolling in, and we are still obviously doing the big Lightforge tier list scoring card preview, whatever you want to call it, thing the Sunday before the expansion release. Let's cover the Battleground update first. It came out on Tuesday, and it feels like a long time ago. Like, it feels like 3 weeks ago.
It honestly feels like forever ago. I can't believe this was less than a week ago. Anyways, here's what happened. 4 heroes left the Battlegrounds. They were King Mukla, Giant Finn, Maleficent Manastorm, and Lich Baziel. I don't know how to pronounce her name. So out of those, I think the one that people will probably miss the most is Maleficent Manastorm, and my miss is just because she's really powerful.
I miss her so much. It was such a good, simple design. I don't even care if they nerfed her and just gave a +1 health or +1 attack, so that she's not overpowered for noobs like me. But it's just, there needs to be more simple hero powers in this game. We're in the very early stages of this game. This is not the time for complexity creep to come into the game yet. And that was like simple, your standard bearer for super, super simple.
I know. Simple hero powers for a simple man.
Yeah.
Adwicta.
It's a complicated enough game not to add these more ridiculous stuff to it.
Yeah, why can't hero powers be as simple as Daryl's, where you don't even have to think about it and you just passively use it?
Yeah, right? Daryl's is so good. I can't even imagine how good Daryl's hero power is in the hands of a good player. Because I literally was just playing Daryl without much consideration to his hero power, and I was like, I'm getting a lot out of this thing. This is some good passive bonuses.
The things you can get away with at 5500 SR. Anyways, in place of those 4 heroes that rotated out, we have 4 new heroes. It's Sindragosa, who has a passive hero power, which you love. At the end of your turn, frozen minions get +1/+1.
He's my favorite new hero.
Unleash, which has a passive hero power. Whenever you upgrade Bob's Tavern, get a recruitment map. The recruitment map costs 3 gold, and you get to discover a minion from the tier that you just upgraded to.
Yeah, see, that's not a passive hero power. They make it seem like a passive hero power, but then you have to decide when to spend your coins and, use the scroll. It's not always immediately, and it's also not always just hold it until you have no good options on the board and you have 3 3 coins. There's strategy to it, and it also changes when you upgrade into a new tavern and stuff. It's complicated. It's very complicated, actually. I don't know what the right answer is to anything Elise-wise, but I do see the complexity.
All right, now we go to Brann Bronzebeard, who has a truly passive hero power. After you play a Battlecry minion, give a random friendly minion +1/+1.
I like that one.
I'm sure you do. And we get to the final hero, Sir Finley Murgleton. It costs 1 gold for the hero power. Give a random friendly minion +1/+1. After you sell a minion, refresh this hero power.
That's crap.
Yeah. If you guys have not really tried out these heroes, definitely try them out. I can tell you right now, Brann is by far the best one. Brann is top tier right now. Brann is a very, very good hero with his passive hero power. You're going to play tons of Battlecry minions throughout the entire game. It is not uncommon for you to, if you're lasting the entire game, to get like 30 worth of stats just passively for doing nothing.
Here's how you know when a new hero is going to come along with a power that's really powerful. It's when you're playing the hero and you're like not a good player and you don't care about the power and you don't know how to play the power and you're like, this is doing a lot for me. That's when you know that once people know what the hell to do with the power and they're like, thinking about it, it's going to be insanely strong. So I'm not surprised. I like Brann, and I don't do like too much focus on the Battlecry thing or whatever. It's just a lot of passive stats that get added to you because you're going to play Battlecry minions. Like,
yeah, most of the minions that you buy are actually going to be Battlecry minions in the game. So Brann is top tier. Sindragosa is okay-ish. Elise is not that great. Sir Finley Mergleton is that is pretty.
Is Elise really not that great?
No, she's too slow.
Really?
You don't get any discounts. Recruiting from the current tier, she's not trash tier, I would say, but she's not that far away from
interesting because like the average win rates for and Elise is the one that I thought would be better the more pro you are, but like the average win rates for Elise is pretty high. Like she's right there with Brann.
And I would say LOL average win rates, we all know how those are.
This is not a hero that has something that's like passive, right? Like this is a pretty active in many ways power that you have to like plan for to get the most out of. Like that's why it's surprising because it's not like Mana Storm.
Sure, but it gives you an immediate power spike, right? Because you immediately get something, or not immediately, but you're able to tap into the tier that you just got. So you spend some gold, you are immediately able to get a minion of that power level, and other people aren't guaranteed to get that, right? So that is quite helpful. And just getting that is quite good. Although once you get to the higher elos, so FYI guys, if you're wondering, Merps, you were top 200. Are you currently top 200 right now? No, I am not. Because I have not been playing this. I've been playing Pokemon. However, I have spent the last 4 to 5 hours before this podcast trying to get back into the top 200. I managed to climb from... Well, earlier on in this week, I played a couple of games after the patch. So if you remember, I was at like 6,150, and I managed to climb to 6,300 in the couple of games. And today I was like, okay, I need some cred to talk about this. So in the past like 4 to 5 hours, I climbed from 6,300 to 6,607, which puts me like 100
crazy. Off of the top 6,607 is not in the top 200 anymore.
I know.
The inflation.
But I did want at least a bit of cred such that I can talk to you guys and tell you, okay, this is what the meta is. Here are how the heroes are. So not top 200, but I am still climbing pretty fast. So I think I do understand the new meta, and I have a pretty good idea of what the heroes are. Do you want to talk about the meta for a little bit?
Sure, but let's talk about the MMR first because you brought it up. Part of the change with the patch, the one that's probably going to be most noticeable to most people who have been playing this game a lot, is that they loosened the MMR system. So now it swings 3 times as hard as it normally swung for players who have played a bunch of games. So it normally capped you at like somewhere between like 25 or 30 points. Now you get like 100 almost for winning, or you lose 100 for losing. So it's a lot more elastic. If I'm using that term right, the MMR system, which means that I was basically stuck at 5,000. Like I have been climbing from 5,000, like basically from 5,000. I have been from 4,000. I've been climbing at a clip of like 30 MMR for a number 1 place finish. And I like steadily got 100 every like 4 hours I played, and I placed in like on average second out of the 8 players because I was clearly better than my MMR, but it takes frickin' forever to climb. I don't have that much time. Like we're talking like insane amounts of times back then. People made posts. They're like, we talked about it in the last Lightforge too. But now that's not a problem anymore. Now I climb over 200 MMR every stream that I do, which is like 5 hours, maybe 6. So that's the new rate. It feels a lot better than the old rate. But I am still not 6,000 yet. I'm like 5,750. I was trying to get to 6,000 last night, but I got 2 8th place finishes.
Top 8 finisher. So good.
So I recovered, so I'm still where I left off the stream. So I left off the stream on Friday night at 5,750, and I'm back at 5,750. It's pretty easy for me now to like win when I'm at like 5,600. Like the competition is actually hugely different between 5,600 and 5,800. It's kind of like crazy. Like I would have a board, I would be like, this is a pretty good board for this situation. And in 5,800, it's like, oh, everyone has a board that's pretty much like this. And in 5,600, it's like, I'm clearly number 2 or number 1. That's crazy, considering that the difference between 5,600 and 5,800 is just 2 good games, right? It's 2 wins at this point. But
Yep.
There's definitely a noticeable like difficulty level difference as you go up. So
Yeah. And before this, I was actually talking to Adam to giving him just a few tips because with stuff like this, it really is small things that make a huge difference in terms of how where you place and how much you punish other people. So I can give you guys a little bit of an idea of how the meta is because for the past 4 to 5 hours, I've been playing almost top 200 level Battlegrounds. Although I do get a lot of top 200 people in my lobbies. So if you are comparing it to the pre-patch meta, the meta now is definitely a little bit faster. Because of the changes, first of all, and also people are trying to play a little bit faster. So tech timings are going to be a little bit slower. People are going to hang out in tier 2 and in tier 3 a little bit longer than they were pre-patch. Players have also gotten a lot better at positioning their minions to punish you. So you need to respond appropriately. What you need to do is make sure that you stay in line with everyone else, unless you are so far ahead that you can take that hit. Because what happens now is if you are teching early, hoping to punish everyone a little bit later, if everyone is staying at 2 and 3 and you're fast teching to 4, you're going to just get beat down because everyone is capable of just chunking you for 15, 16, 17 damage.
The meta definitely got faster. Noticeably so. Hence my 8th place finishes whenever I experiment with stuff. This game punishes you so hard for experimenting with stuff. So freaking hard. I'm like, I guess I'll try demons and see if they work. It's like, nope. And then like 20 games later, I'm like, I guess I'll try demons again. Maybe I didn't do well the first time. And it was like, nope. All right. No more demons. Or at least not like past the mid game.
You can never win with demons, but the guy that you face that went demons is going to chunk you for so
exactly.
much.
That's why I tried demons again. I'm like, I see it working. I see some people making it work now and then. Like, they have those, like, guys that, like, throw 3 damage that turns into, like, 6 damage later on. Yeah. And then it seems to work. And then when I do it, they're, like, throwing stuff, but it's not, like, killing anything because it's only 3 damage. And I'm like, that's what I thought, but why does it make such a big difference when I face them? Anyway.
Right. So that's sort of the meta. It's definitely a little bit faster. And I would say that in order to really improve, because everyone has gotten better. Everyone has gotten better. Everyone knows a little bit more about the game. If you are stuck at a certain MMR, whether it's 4,500, whether it's 5,500, whether it's 6,500, etc., I would say that one thing to really help you guys keep climbing to break out of that rut is if you're in the lower SSR, what you want to do is just focus on yourself, focus on builds, really question yourself and say, okay, I want to do this because of that. Don't worry about scouting right now. If you're at like the mid 4,000s and you are spending any time scouting, you are spending brain resources inefficiently. You need to be thinking about your own game plan, maximizing that. If you're like mid 5500 and you're finding a difficult time climbing, I think one of the things that you are probably doing wrong is you're playing all of the heroes in a similar fashion. So your playstyle might be great for patchwork in terms of playing a greedier playstyle, getting to 4, and then rolling for those pairs in order to get that early Brann or Lightfang. But you play the same way when you choose something like Nefarian, in which you just get 7th place right away. So know that you just can't play the same way throughout. And maybe your game plan is perfect for one of the heroes, but just doesn't work for everyone else. And then I would say if you are at 6,500, trying to break into the top 200 and you're getting a little bit stuck there, that's where scouting comes in. That's when you really need to, because at that point, you've pretty much polished your own game plan. And I think what's probably holding you back is not scouting enough, not playing the percentages and understanding what your opponents had before, but what they might have in the mid game. One example I gave to Adwicta is, for example, you scouted your upcoming opponent many turns ago. Like on turn 3, you saw that they had the beginnings of a demon package. Now it's around turn 8. So what positioning do you use? If it's turn 8, by this point, you should expect that they would have one of those siege breakers. I think that's the name. It's the 5/8 taunt demon that gives your other demons +1 attack. So you want to put your minions such that you're not having, for example, 2/7 attack minions at the very start, because then you're just overkilling a whole ton and you're wasting potential on your board. You want to assume that the first minion that you're going to attack is going to be a 5/8 taunt. These are some things that you want to keep into consideration. And if you're considering these things at high elos, more often than not, you're going to edge out a small advantage here or there, get a tie when you're supposed to lose, get a win when you're supposed to tie, punish the opponent, and just survive until the mid game where you can high roll or you can just play well. And I think that's a good summary of not only the meta, but small tips on how you can improve at every single MMR.
Yeah, if you want to climb, like without necessarily getting like quote unquote better at the game, the really easiest way to do is just to like make sure you don't get bottom 2, and then you'll just climb eventually. Because at some point you're like, oh, I don't have a great setup or anything, but I make sure I didn't get bottom 2, and then you like win 2 matches or just like not lose hard for 2 matches, and you're like, well, I guess I'm top 2 or 3. And that happens like half the time. So it definitely in this very aggressive, because one of the changes they made in the update is they lowered the Murloc guy, the seer that buffs +2 health to all your Murlocs down to 2, and they also lowered the Primal Fin. I forget what the guy's name is. It's the 3/2
Primal
Murloc.
Fin Lookout,
The Lookout.
from tier 5 to tier 4.
Yeah, that helps you find Murlocs, and that's huge. Because now, for the Murloc builds, you get to tier 4, and then every time you search, you're almost guaranteed to find either the thing that gives poison or the thing that gives everything +2. And tier 4 is pretty easy to get to, as we know from the old school mech days. So now, Murlocs kind of dominate this like early game through tier 4 area that mechs had. But they actually have a downside in that they're not very good in the end game. They're actually really bad in the end game. I've tried to make Murloc works a few times too. That resulted in a couple of low finishes too. As I like got the hang of like how the progression works and when you can go for the Megasword and when not. But it increases the speed of the overall meta. In very noticeable ways.
Yes, and in addition to those 2 changes that I talked about, Void Ward moved from tier 6 to tier 5, which is good because it was just not a good tier 6 unit. And Junkbot moved from tier 4 to tier 5. Very much so needed. So the most dominant build, the build that you will see number ones have the most often, is going to be Menagerie now. Menagerie with Lightfang Enforcer. Mm-hmm. Lightfang Enforcer is now the most powerful minion in the game. It's one in which you get it, you're looking really, really good. Probably guaranteed top 2 if you were the first to get it.
See, I
And
get it all the time and don't finish top 2.
that might have something to do with your own play, but we don't have to talk about that. Yeah.
Because like it takes
So
a couple turns for it to actually ramp up, and until
it
then
does.
you're just like weak, and you just have a 2/2 minion on the board. Like,
That's true. And this is where the dealing a little bit more damage to your opponents and saving a little bit of damage on your own face makes a huge difference, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
that is Battlegrounds right now. Hopefully, you guys continue to have fun with it. Let's move on to Arena.
Yeah. Just the balance of Battlegrounds right now, the patch made it a lot better, and another patch is coming December 5th, so it's coming ahead of the actual expansion, and that's going to have a bunch of other stuff come in. I think it's interesting that it's coming ahead of the expansion. But what that means is because there's a new Battlegrounds patch coming out, and because Battlegrounds exists, period, we're not actually going to cancel our streams ahead of the expansion like we normally do. Because we're not playing Arena right now. So we'll be playing Battlegrounds and continue to play Battlegrounds all the way through with no interruptions on our stream. And then when the actual expansion comes out on the 10th, we'll switch back to the Arena and figure out the meta and the new cards. Okay, so Arena-wise, there's not really any news. They started releasing cards again, finally, but they've only like shown like 6 of them, and like half of them aren't in the Arena, and the other half are like legendaries, and it's just like not much is happening. I thought there'd be more to talk about, but there really isn't when it comes to the news. So we're gonna do what we didn't do before, even though we had the information. We are going to look at the upcoming rotation that is going to happen, because that's all we know, right? Like, all we know right now, we have a bunch of cards that have been revealed, but the vast majority of it is not like in the Arena, because they're like G-Dragon cards and like legendary cards. So outside of this one card called Twin Tyrant that is going to dominate the meta. By the way, I'll just drop this right now. If you guys remember Twin Tyrant. Oh, I don't have a picture of Twin Tyrant. What is Twin Tyrant stats again?
8 mana for a... What was it? Oh, yeah. We don't have the picture.
Yeah. We're looking at a test tier list that has...
All right, here it is.
Okay.
8 mana for a 4/10 dragon. Battlecry, deal 4 damage to 2 random enemy minions. And it can't double up, so you can't deal 4 damage twice to the same one. It has to be 2 different minions.
Yep. So like multi-shot, like how multi-shot works, basically. So we all knew that was going to be the new king of the Arena when that came out. Everybody did. It does not take an algorithm to figure that out. But the algorithm has now provided for exactly how much it's going to dominate the meta. And let's just say it is easily the best neutral card in the game. And I'll just leave it at that. The best non-legendary neutral card in the game. Easily.
Yeah.
It doesn't help that most of the like super bonkers neutral cards, like Primordial Drake is the one I'm thinking of, but like they're not in the next meta.
Mm-hmm.
The next meta is good. Do you have the list of what cards are in of what rotation?
No, I do not.
I should have been prepared with this. I just have all the cards that are in, so I'm like, oh, I have all the information. And I'm like, wait, I don't actually have the list of the rotation. Okay, so I'll start talking about the cards because I have the analysis here. And can you go on Reddit and like figure
go talk about the cards?
Okay, so the new meta that's coming in is going to be weak overall, and I'm talking class card power levels. I'm talking neutral card power levels. It's just not the sets coming in are not the most powerful sets. Like Ungoro is not in. That's a huge power level spike. The new sets from this year, like Saviors, is not in. Rise of Shadows, I'm pretty sure is not in. So those are your big power spike expansions. and they're all not in. Okay, Taro's in our chat, and Taro provided the list. So the list of the sets that are in the arena should be Karazhan, Blackrock Mountain, Kobolds and Catacombs, Knights of the Frozen Crown, Frozen Throne, Rastakon's Rumble, and then Basic and Classic are coming back. So no Ungoro, no Saviors, no Rise of Shadows, and those are our strongest sets. Put an asterisk in there for also no Mean Streets of Gadgetzan. That was also a really strong set. So with those 4 sets not in the meta, it is a very weak meta. It will probably be the weakest meta that we have seen since Wild Rotations began. The only synergy that they're really hugely bringing back is the Dragon synergy between Blackrock Mountain, Rastakon's Rumble, which had a bunch of dragons, and this new Descent of Dragons set coming out. I think that's the focus of where the power level is going to be for this rotation. And because that's the focus, and because we don't know all the cards yet in the Descent of Dragons, it means that the other old cards are all just not all that great. So that's the big picture. Going down to the on the ground level, we're gonna start with some overall observations about the neutral set. One, there's not that many heals. You're not gonna be able to heal for more than 3 per turn, per card per turn. The 2 exceptions for it in the neutral case is Cheaty Ankle Biter, which is not really an exception, right? It just can repeatedly heal if it, but it's delayed and it's very easily removed. And the Worm, the 5 mana Worm that also has Lifesteal. That's it. Like your big heals are all kind of gone, and that's gonna affect the meta a lot because without big heals, you're gonna see a lot more aggressive play. The lifesteal minions kind of put an asterisk on it, but the worm is the blood worm. We rate a 96 right now in this current. This is the rating for it. We plugged it in and we just assumed that the meta had no Descent of Dragons. It was just this meta being released. So it's not going to be the final score. But like, it's not a great card. You'll take it sometimes, but more likely than not, you won't. And Cheaty Ankle Biter you'll take more often, and that could really put a stop to people's aggression. But that's only if they can hide it behind a taunt, and you're not mage, and you have no removal. Otherwise, that's very easy to take care of also. So overall, that's a very good point, a very big point for aggro. And after that, there's also not a lot of... So
you mentioned Evasive Draconid. Evasive Draconid is a 7-mana, 7/7 dragon with taunt, and it can't be targeted by spells or hero powers.
Oh, I don't think I mentioned it yet, but I'm about to.
Okay. You mentioned the name. I just need to make sure people know what it is.
Oh, really? Did I mention it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm about to talk about it anyway. So the Evasive Draconid is the other neutral card that we know that's going to have an impact in the game, in addition to the Twin Tyrant, which is going to absolutely dominate the game. But the Evasive Draconid is your big taunt. That is the new upcoming big arena taunt that's going to happen. It is common, and remember, we're back in the offering rates period now. We're copying common matters compared to being rare. It gets seen like twice as often almost. So Evasive Draconid being a common, Twin Tyrant being a common, they're all hugely important for stopping aggro. So Evasive Draconid is turn 7. I guess it doesn't have initiative, but you can't remove it with a spell, so it kind of has initiative. Twin Tyrant actually has initiative, so you have to be faster than those 2 cards, or you have to have direct reach afterwards to finish the game off. So that is your game. Your game is going to be finish the opponent off before these 2 cards come down, or your game is going to be have these 2 cards and play farther than that and rely on your card advantage to win. I think the meta is going to come down very harshly, like into those 2 lines, because there's no 6-mana taunts. There's like a Sunwalker as normal, and that's it. There's no like 5-mana taunts either. So you just have
all of this.
Huh?
Loving all of this.
Yeah. So you just have like this big giant freaking hole between 4 mana and 7 mana where it's open season on aggro going face, right?
Yeah.
Even if you've been trading before then, now you can just swing face and deal a lot of damage. And we've talked about not having heals. Like, there's a lot, and when I say not having heals, that's going to extend, as you'll see, to the class cards too. Class cards that heal are generally not in this meta. So it's just it's a very good spot for aggro up until turn 7. And then on turn 7, Amani Warbear comes in. Evasive Dragon is here, right? On 8, Meshaga Forcer exists. It's not great, but it's a card. Twin Tyrant we talked about before. Bone Mare.
Too late by then. You know what's the best part about Twin Tyrant? Unlike cheating Primordial Drake, Twin Tyrant does not taunt.
Mm-hmm. And it can only at most kill 2 of your minions.
I know, right?
Yeah, how weak is that? You have a board of like 5 minions. It can only take care of 2. Your other 3 swing face. GG.
It's so weak. They can't even target with it. God, it's just gonna all it's gonna do is gonna eat up my 1/1s and 2/1s. But yeah, that's the thing. With Primordial Drake, it would have been fine if it just didn't have taunt.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, this all makes me excited. And I do agree, the new expansion just seems kind of weak. And I'm totally cool with that.
Yep. Not the new expansion, the new rotation.
Sorry.
The new expansion is ridiculously strong.
Yes. So far, what we've seen from the expansion is absolutely crushing in terms of the power.
Yep.
But I completely agree that what we see from the rotation is fairly weak. And I don't know, maybe they purposefully left out a lot of the powerful sets. I'm wondering what their thinking was there. If there was any thinking, I don't know.
I mean, I think their thinking was, let's support dragons as well as possible to make it more fun for people to play dragons. And then they didn't really worry about the rest of them. Like, all the big dragon sets are in. Like, that's...
I can definitely see that, yeah.
And this is the result. It's good, like, Dragon Ball Scorcher is in. Cobalt Scalebane is in. Like, you could just tell they just took all the powerful dragons outside of Primordial Drake, and then they're like, we're gonna put those sets in. Yeah. So, dragons, by the way, for the most part, some classes have dragons that, you know, make spells become board clears, and so they can be a little more defensive with dragons. But dragons, for the most part, like, just find other dragons. They like enable you to discover other dragons. So it's a card advantage mechanism more than anything else. So even if the dragons become super powerful, as they are guaranteed to be super powerful, that's all late game stuff, right? Like, finding a dragon is not really going to help you if you're dealing with aggro. Right. Like, dragons don't heal, except for one.
Dragons don't heal, but sometimes they do.
Very rarely they do.
Very rarely.
And without Primordial Drake, you're also missing the Taunt Dragon. There's one other dragon that taunts, right? Or there's a card that taunts if you're holding a dragon. I don't know if that's actually in the game, but I think it... Oh no, that's secret. My bad. No, there is a dragon.
Are you talking about the dragon?
I'm talking about Twilight Guardian. Is Twilight Guardian in? Yeah, Twilight Guardian is in. So there is a dragon that taunts, because there's no dragons that taunts. Dragons don't taunt in like, non-legendary dragons don't have taunt except Primordial Drake.
Okay, all right. So you're talking about Twilight Guardian. I thought you were talking about another minion.
Avian Watcher is with secrets. So I was thinking of both of them, but they're both bad. And even with dragons, that's not going to make Twilight Guardian like all that much better.
Sure.
Because you still have to hold a dragon, first of all, and then it becomes a 3/6 taunt, which is great, but that's what it should be kind of anyway to be a powerful card. And it's an epic on top of that. So if you are like focused on, if you're drafting a deck and you're going with the dragon focus, you're going to have like a real weakness actually to aggro. And that's where the power is. This is going to be a very like polarized meta when it comes to what's effective.
That's how it should be.
But we don't have buckets anymore. And when buckets leave, good drafting pushes everybody towards the middle, because you get punished much more for each pick you don't make, like based on power level alone. And if you make picks based on power levels alone, you're going to get a very mid-rangey deck. So you're going to be like innate power level of the mid-range deck is going to compete with the it's just much better and much better synergized for the meta to go either more like it's not even control, it's just like card advantage, like attrition almost, or to go more aggressive. So I do think it's going to be a very interesting meta. Assuming they have a decent amount of class cards. I still don't know what the exact percentage is for like what the exact offering rate bonus is for class cards in the current meta, or if they're changing it for the next meta. Right now, we're assuming 2x, which is probably the wrong number, but we'll dig into the stats and see what it currently is, and then we'll see if they release anything that says anything about what their actual offering odds are. Okay. So that's the baseline meta. For individual drops, there are no good 1-drops. There's Saronite Taskmaster, that's your best one by far. The next best one's Argent Squire, and I'm not even going to go down the list after that. So like I said, it's just not a lot of good stuff. 2s are not that much better. You do have Flame Juggler, but after that it's like Pompous Thespian, Amani Berserker, and your normal 2-drops. So you have one really good 1-drop in Saronite Taskmaster, one really good 2-drop in Flame Juggler. You're going to see the same thing for 3-drops. You have Hildnir Frostrider, which is a really good 3-drop. And then after that, you have like Death Speaker, which is questionably a good 3-drop. Saboteur, again, Archer Horse Rider, Emperor Cobra. Like, they're great cards. They're just not like at the best power level on turn 3.
God,
Untamed
I missed
Beastmaster.
Like, you mentioned Emperor Cobra. I was like, huh? I have totally forgotten about these basic and classic cards. Glad that they're back.
Yeah. It felt weird for the last month and a half.
These are stabilizing cards here, so I am very, very glad that they're back. Mm-hmm. Looking forward to seeing you again, Yeti.
On 4, Keening Banshee is your really good 4-drop. Evil Heckler, kind of good. I mean, it's good on 4, but you're in the same situation now as like Pompous Thespian, right? Where it's like good, but it's not like super tempo or anything. Saronite Chain Gang is there, and then you have your Dark Iron Dwarf, and then your Yeti after that. So you have a decent amount of power on 4, which is good and stabilizing. 2 of them taunt. Defender of Argus is also there to give more taunts on 4. 4 is really like a very taunty area. Refreshment Vendor is back, so you also have like a little bit of heal on 4 potentially. But for the most part, it's following the same pattern, right? Saronite Taskmaster, Flame Juggler, Hildnir Frostrider, Keening Banshee. Those are your super tempo cards, and there's 1 in every single mana slot. Until you get to 5. On 5, your super tempo, if you don't look at epic cards, because epic cards really are seen very rarely now, but Mashag Announcer's there, Snapdraw Shellfighter's there. But after that, it's Former Champ, which is your over-tempoed 5-drop, I mean. You have Dragon Maul Scorcher, which is not really a drop, but by the time turn 5 comes, there's a decent chance it's a drop. You have Cobalt Scalebane if you have the board, and then the 5-drops also scale off. You have nothing at 6. It's like Bone Drake and Draken and Crusher. But really, you have nothing at 6. That's no over-tempoed at 6. So we're just, once again, right? Like, the defensive hole that is dug on turn 5, and the total absence of stuff at all on turn 6. Before turn 7 comes in, and you're a Amani Warbear, you're a Evasive Dragonid, like, just all these, like, really good cards coming in to stabilize. That's how the meta's gonna be. It's gonna be one game from turn 1 to turn 4, and then the person with the advantage is going to push and try to finish you off before turn 7, and you're gonna try to stabilize on turn 7 and after.
Interesting. All right. We'll see what the new cards bring, but I kind of like the fact that the combination that they've thrown together right now is not too powerful, right? Mm-hmm. So it definitely gives the new expansion an ability to shine. Although I don't know how much I'm going to regret saying that, but I am looking forward to that.
Like, I don't know if you want it to shine, given what we know about this new expansion so far.
I know. But for now, I'm like, I'm excited to see, because here's the way I view Arena. Right now, it's definitely not fun. And at the very least, even if it is unbalanced for the first little bit of time, it'll be interesting. It'll be fun to see exactly what is sort of the best strat, what the meta is going to shake out to be. And I'm always for, if it's just going to be unbalanced, I'd rather it be unbalanced because of the new cards than unbalanced by old cards in which I know it's going to be unbalanced like that. So that's my preference.
Yep. I really actually want to play in this meta without the new expansion. Like, this seems like a pretty damn good meta. Like, honestly.
I think that's fair.
So, we'll see how much the new expansion messes things up. Alright, on to classes. Here's what you gotta know about Druid. Everything is back, but not too much of anything. So, all the strategies are available again, right? Like, the classic cards are back. That's why. Druid is always very centered, very, like, balanced when you bring the classic cards back. On the token side, which most people know Druid for, you have Savage Roar is back, right? Power of the Wild is back. You still have Living Roots. That's a thing, but that's also kind of it. You're not going to get much more support past that. Is that enough to build a token deck? Yes. Yes, it is. But it's not a super overpowered token deck. There is no Mark of the Lotus. There is no whatever that thing is that gives you 2/2s for your mana crystals. Like, your
living mana,
yeah. Like, those like super unfair cards are not in the meta. And when it comes to reach, you have some reach. Living Roots, we mentioned before, is a little bit of reach, right? Swipe is good reach. Starfire is good reach. Ultimate Infestation's back, and that's good reach. But again, not too much reach. You have the right amount of reach.
Yeah. That's definitely something that was missing when you take away Basic and Classic. Yeah. You were just missing a ton of reach for all classes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you're looking for a more card advantage or late game Druid, we talked about UI. That's still here. Starfire, right? That'll get you card advantage. Emerald Explorer is a dragon card that we already know exists, and that'll give you card advantage. But yeah, Spreading Plague is back with Strong Shell. So.
Oh no.
Look, you could play any kind of Druid in this meta that you want, and none of them is going to be terribly great or terribly bad. This is what it looks like right now, without knowing too much of the new cards. Also, the new cards, I'm really curious how the offering rates are going to work for the new cards, because there's not going to be a lot of variety. A lot of the new cards are not going to be in the arena because they're like G-Dragon related, and G-Dragon cards aren't going to be in the arena. So
yeah, we don't know exactly how many cards are going to be designated for Galakrond, and by designate I mean invoke cards. But because this is the new mechanic, it's going to be pretty big. I would imagine a decent amount of the set is going to be invoke related. So yeah.
It doesn't affect Druid, but it affects like 5 of the classes. So okay. Moving on from Druid, Hunter. Unfortunately, Merps.
I know.
While aggro is going to be pretty damn good, and Hunter is the best type of aggro because it has that direct damage, there is balance. Hunters are not going to run away as the king of aggro in this meta because it has 1/1-drop. Just one. It's Springpaw. It's a nice 1-drop, but just one. And it has some 2-drops, some 3-drops, but it also then has just like nothing really looks great. Your best cards are like Freezing Traps, Hunter's Marks, Power Shot, Eaglehorn Bow, like Savannah Highmane. Like, they're very normal Hunter stuff. You're not getting anything that's pushing the tempo in a way that Hunters can't always do.
Very sad.
When your best cards are just like a list of your top classic cards, it's not going to lean in to its advantage. On the other hand, you do have a lot of like board clears in Hunter now. That's like one thing I noticed when I was looking through. You have Power Shot, Explosive Shot, Unleash. Like, there's a good amount of removal here for Hunter. there's for card advantage you have just Ball of Spiders, and Primordial Explorer, and like other stuff that's not great for card advantage, like King's Elic, Stitch Tracker. Like they're just not what you want for card advantage, but you do have some. So it's a weird place. Like hunters are going to be forced to play like a faster mid-range style, and they're probably going to be okay at it because I imagine faster mid-range is going to be pretty good overall, but it's very limiting too. Like there's not a lot of like wiggle room. A Baited Arrow's back.
Baited Arrow. That is the mid-range hunter staple.
Yeah. And yeah, they're busted cards for mid-range / their late game. Like I keep forgetting the cards' names, like the 4 mana 3/3 that deals 3 damage. That's like actually a spell, but it could be a minion.
Flanking?
Yeah, Flanking Strike. There we go. Like that kind of stuff, or the card draw ones. They're all not like back. So you end up with this like weird like. There's probably not enough here for you to make Hunter the card advantage king, the way Hunters have been for some metas, oddly. But there's also not enough here for you to really push your aggro advantage. And there's a weird amount of board clears here. So you're just going to end up with a mid-range deck.
When you think Hunters, you think board clears.
I mean, they got more board clears than Druids.
That's fair.
Yeah. So overall, I would say Hunters are going to be on the weak side, without new expansion cards coming in and tilting the balance. Okay, moving on to Mage. Mage is powerful. Mage is going to be powerful, and it's also very well balanced in that you have early cards, you have late cards, all your old unbalanced stuff is back, right? Your Flame Strike. Flame Strike is over a 200 in the current test tier list. I don't know if it's going to end up there when the expansion comes out. Probably not with the expansion's high power levels. It'll probably bring down Flame Strike a little, but still, that's Flame Strike. Blast Wave is back, the epic card, but still.
Blast Wave.
Yeah. Oof. Blizzard's always been there. Dragon's Breath is going to be there. Also, like it's a lot of stuff. If you're looking at hard removals, so you go back, right? Hunters have weird hard removals, right? They have like Hunter's Mark and like Deadly Shot. Druids just don't have hard removals. They have Mulch and nothing else, and Mulch is epic, so you're not going to see it all that often. Mages don't have that problem. They have Fireballs, which I understand is not a hard removal anymore, but they also have Polymorphs, and they have Flame Lances, which is closer to a hard removal. So they're still going to be pretty good on the hard removal front. And remember, this is now like no longer the bucket system. So when you see your Polymorphs and your Fireballs and your like Flame Lances, you always take them because they're just good cards. Polymorph Boar, a weird hard removal, but technically counts. That's also back.
Or you use it from lethal.
Yeah, or you can use it for lethal. You have a lot of good, solid minions too for your early game. Sorcerer's Apprentice, Fallen Hero, Medea's Ballet, Flamewalkers, Kirin Tor Mages, Pyromaniacs. Like, it's all there. Like, mages have a bit of everything, like druids, but their bit of everything is all like better than what the druids have. And they have no weakness. Druids always have that like hole in their build for hard removals, right? Not that there are terribly huge minions these days in this upcoming rotation, but mages don't even have that weakness. They're covered. Okay, so far, Druid's okay, Hunter's probably bad, Mage looking strong. We're gonna get to the Broken class. I'm sure everyone will be happy to know that Paladins are going to remain very strong in the next meta. Because no one is sick of Paladins yet. And it's going to do that with a extremely strong early game. We were talking about how the game's going to be divided into a very strong early push and then a very strong card advantage late push, while the drafting system without buckets is going to push everything towards the middle. Well, for the Paladins, there's no late game in the Paladin side anymore. Like, lay on hands is not that great. And that's really your only big thing. It's also epic. A new challenger is great, but again, it's an epic. And your Ivory Knight is a rare card, and that'll get you some card advantage. but there's really not like your big. There's no Vine Cleavers anymore. There's no Steeds anymore. There's no like anything big that Paladins had before. It's pretty much gone. Instead, you have your big concentration of your classic cards at 4. So that's your Blessing of Kings, your Consecrations, your True Silvers. That's all there. Thankfully, Oldemon is not making a return.
Oh my god, I'm so tired of that card.
Yeah. You're also going to beat every other aggro deck you see because you have Chillblade Champion and Tuskar Jouster for healing. So anytime you face another aggro deck, you will win. And anytime you face a slower deck, hopefully you're fast enough to push through. Because while you don't have a lot of direct damage, you do have, on turn 1, all these are common, by the way. Light's Justice, Bloodclaw, Righteous Protector. And that's just going to anchor your whole game. On turn 2, you have an Argent Protector and an Argent Lance. That's not like the best. Argent Lance is great, Argent Protector not so much. But you could just use regular 2-drops for it. And on turn 3, you have Aldor and Seal of Champs. Aldor is rare. Seal of Champs is common, though. And then on 4, you get your power turn. So overall, the power level of Paladin is not like that high, but it's high in like the right areas. So I think Paladins are looking to be very strong going in. They just have to push the tempo. Like, there's no wiggle room here. You can't make a late game Paladin deck. You can't even make a normal mid-range Paladin deck. You just gotta push through everything and end the game on like turn 7.
Sounds like you definitely have the cards in order to do it, though.
Yep. Alright. So after Paladin is Priest. That being said, Paladin right now is ridiculous. I don't know if they're going to dominate anywhere close to how they're dominating the current meta. It's just one of the, like, Paladin and Mage are going to be strong. Next up is Priest. The only big giant board clear that Priests have that's not in... Because remember, in Basic and Classic, Priests don't have a big board clear. That's why Control Priest didn't really work. They have, like, Holy Nova and, like, Shadow Madness. And that's kind of it. And then every expansion has a giant Priest board clear. So whenever you have this wild rotation and multiple giant Priest board clears are in the game, they have this really good control game going on. That's not the case here. They only have Mass Hysteria. Nothing else on the control side. So they have a lot of big cards. They have Obsidian Statue and Mind Control. Cabal Shadow Priest, Temple Enforcer, Holy Fire, but like, again, I look at it and it's just a bunch of very like classic and basic priest cards. And remember, in the arena, classic and basic priest is not very good. So I don't know, there's just not much happening. They have a lot of card draw. Devour Mind is back.
I do love that card.
Yeah. There's no buffs left. All the buffs are gone. Like, I don't know what you do. Like, Spirit Lash is still here, but can you really make a control game function, which is Spirit Lash, Holy Nova, like Shadow Madness, and Devour Mind? I mean, not Devour Mind, Mass Hysteria?
We'll see. I mean, if they tune up the offering rates, the micro adjust. Also, if we get 1 or 2 priest cards in the new expansion that sort of fill in those gaps that you're talking about.
I think
right?
You absolutely need another board clear and a large board clear to be able to make Control Priest work from this upcoming expansion.
I agree. I think that's a fair assessment.
Mm-hmm. And we are now entering into, because the first 4 classes are the good classes, so they don't have G-Dragon. Starting with Priest and the next 4 classes, they're in the lower half of the alphabet. The lower half of the alphabet, also known as the evil half of the alphabet. They are going to have much fewer cards in this expansion in the arena than the other classes. So Priest already has their hard removal taken away from them because it's an invoke card. They have their version of like Assassinate taken away from them. So yeah, Priest without this new expansion is looking very weak, I think. Next up, Rogue. Rogue is looking very strong. You have all of your hard removals, Walk the Plank, Assassinate, Sap, Kidnapper, all that stuff is back. Dark Iron Skulker exists, so it covers the one weakness that rogues have, and it's a rare. It's not even an epic. Then they have a whole ton of card advantage on top of that. Between Sprint and Hypemon and the new card Candle Breath and Burgle, you're going to have card advantage, endless card advantage as Rogue. So you could go into the late game with anyone as long as you have enough taunts. Remember, there's not a lot of heals in this game, but as long as you have enough taunts and you don't use your health too much, you can go into the late game. And because you have these cards that allow you to go into the late game, you can focus more on your early game. And rogues have really good early game control and removal cards. Swashbuckler, Backstab, Buccaneer, Deadly Poison, Sap, Eviscerate, Understudy Valiant, Patient Assassin, SI7 Agent. Like, I'm just naming stuff, right? Like, everything rogue has is good tempo in the early game. So yeah, rogues are going to be good. They're going to have good tempo in the early game to prevent other classes from getting and pushing the tempo in the early going. And then they're going to beat the card advantage people by having just more card advantage in the late game. Also, they're never going to be in need of 2-drops because they have a dagger. Like, it's just... rogues are going to be ridiculous.
Rogues being strong at the start of a new expansion/rotation, nothing new, right?
Yep.
That's something I think we should expect. We've seen that time and time again. The hero power carries. Blizzard, if, history sort of repeats itself, they take away any sort of micro adjust at the very beginning. So rogues will have...
Oh, but there are no micro adjusts right now. So they have nothing to take away.
True, yeah. But, well, the lack of it at the beginning also helps rogue, right? Yeah, so rogues should be strong once again, but they're always strong.
They've literally been strong this entire year because they've been weird about micro adjusts. Blizzard's been weird about micro adjusts. The only reason rogues are not great right now, and they're still okay, is because there's no classic and basic in this meta. Once classic and basic comes in, that's all their broken cards. And then you add the most broken rogue card to ever be printed in Dark Iron Skulker. Rogues are going to dominate. Okay. Next up is Shaman. Shaman is always bad. So we can just edit at that. No. But they're going to be bad in this expansion. They have some like control cards, right? Lightning Storm, Maelstrom Portal, Elemental Destruction, Hex, like a lot of good control cards actually. But then they have no ability to get any kind of card advantage. So remember, we're now in the G-Dragon classes with Invoke, which means they're going to have fewer cards in this new expansion. So they need like a really clutch high card advantage card. Like Manatai Totem. That's their only card advantage card that like shamans have ever consistently had. And without it, I don't know what you're controlling the board for. You control the board to do what, right? Like, you're not dealing damage if you're controlling the board as a control deck. So you push. You spread the board and you bloodlust and you win. And that's always available to shamans. But they have no like 1-drops that are coming in that are worth anything. And they have 2-drops aren't really good on tempo that they have. They have like 1 totem golem. That's kind of it. That's really more of a 3-drop. And they don't have other 3-drops that are good. So they have a Fire Guard Destroyer on 4, and then Fire Elemental on 6. But it's kind of like not enough. Like, they're not good enough. There's not enough of it. To sustain anything. So you just end up with this like collection of like pretty good cards that shamans usually has, and then like a not very good hero power, and you're just kind of expected to make it work, and it pretty much never works.
Great.
Like, the biggest card that shamans have is literally Fire Elemental. So you have just no late game. And you have no ability to push him early game. So you're pure mid-range. And early game and late game beats mid-range. So you better have like a ton of value in the mid-game. And you only have like good value.
I got nothing to add if you were waiting for me to add something.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, do you have any, ways to make Shaman work?
Well, here's the thing. Look, if they are going to micro adjust them up, certainly there are ways that they can do that to make them good, right? Like Blizzard strongly has their finger, like the thumb on the scale for some classes, and they can make it good. But yeah, like at the very beginning, I would say, guys, do not play Shaman. Without a lot of help from Blizzard, I just don't see it. They don't have the ramp that paladins do. They don't have the naturally sort of strong cards that other classes have, and it's just the hero power just doesn't do enough.
Yeah.
Like you're comparing the rogue hero power to the shaman hero power, and it's sort of night and day, right? So just wait.
Yep. Shamans need their micro adjust. Okay, so moving on to Warlock. Warlock is going to be so weird. Looking through the cards, you have like very few good cards that are not like removals. You have a couple. You have Flame Imp coming back, always great. You have Wrathguard, which is high tempo. I like Wrathguard. I don't know. Some people really get annoyed by the damage it deals. Imp Gang Boss, always a good card. And then your Despicable Dreadlord and Dread Inferno, I guess they're like minions. Siegebreaker, we were talking about it for Battlegrounds, because Siegebreaker is coming back. But they're like, especially Dread Inferno and Despicable Dreadlords, they're also board clears on top of that. So in addition to those two, you have the following board clears: Shriek, Defile, Demon Wrath, Hellfire, Shadow Flame, Dark Bargain, sort of, and then Twisting Nether. And for hard removals, you have Demon Bolt, Siphon Soul, Unwilling Sacrifice. So, Corruption, question mark. So you could really do a whole lot of removal. And you're Warlock, so you have infinite amounts of card advantage. So in theory, you should be able to do something with this setup. In practice, you have no heals in this meta. Siegebreaker is a giant taunt, but that's the only taunt that you get. Your other cards, your other class cards don't. Well, I mean, okay, Reckless Dire Troll taunts, but that's kind of a not great card. So I don't know. Like I'm looking at it and I don't know how to build a functional deck with these cards.
I think you're going to have to lean on neutrals a decent amount. We're going back to the problem Warlocks have had for a long time now, in which they just have too many removals, and that's a real problem. Like you can't just react over and over and over again, because at a certain point, you are not taking advantage of your hero power. You're just holding a lot of these cards. Your opponents are going to find a way in which you are constantly throwing inefficient removals. You're not putting pressure on your opponent so that they can get their huge bomb and then finally put pressure on you. So depending on how the offering rates go, you might have to give up a couple of premium removals for just okay neutral minions, which is not something you want to do quite often, because without a bucket system, you might have to be giving up tons of value.
Yeah. And to be fair, all of these were all under bucketed anyway. So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to really like do about this, because you don't have like regular kinds of removals. You have like a Shadow Bolt, and then you have Soulfire, right? Immortal Coil. These are not like the best regular removals. So yeah, I think the build is going to have to be just kind of by default, because you can't have a control build with no heals or huge taunts, and you can't get heals or huge taunts. So you're going to end up with a faster mid-range, like kind of like a Zoo build, but there's no Fungalmancer, so Zoo builds are a lot weaker than when Fungalmancer exists. So you also have no buffs, obviously, because you're Warlock. So you're having a Zoo build with no buffs, and you're just relying on Demon Bolt. And then you have like one or two like backup board clears for if you fall behind, and you can like try to struggle to win on card advantage without dying. I don't know.
Sounds fun.
The power's there, but it's just going to be awkward. And you're right. I think it's going to be a lot of neutral stuff. A lot of neutral stuff. Okay. Finally, Warrior. Warrior has one card, and I think that's really all you need to know about why this class is going to be bonkers in the next expansion, and it is Dragon Roar.
That's it. That's the analysis.
Oh yeah, I didn't do any more analysis. It has Dragon Roar in a Dragon's expansion. That's GG, right?
It's pretty good. Is that it? Is that all we're talking about?
Yeah. Okay. So they also have a bunch of their weapons coming back and or staying. Fool's Bane is common. So anytime Fool's Bane's in the meta, warriors are going to be great. And
Cool.
Fool's Bane's in the meta. Bloodraiser is common. So that's there too. So if you're wondering why, like, okay, so let's say they do have Dragon Roar, but how are you going to get the space to use Dragon Roar? Well, between your Fool's Bane, your Bloodraiser, you have Assault Araz, you have a Gore Howl, you have a King's Defender, and there's not big taunts, but there's a lot of small taunts that are annoying in the neutral meta. So, yeah.
I could see that. And then if the meta is slow enough that, well, I think we have to wait and see how it shakes out in terms of is a class able to really punish that style, right? Because I can see aggro decks really getting ahead of Dragon Roar warriors. But if like there's enough mid-range decks like you predict to keep those out, then aggro decks just might not. There might not be a meta healthy enough for aggro decks to just target the warriors because of all the mid-range decks that are around. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to obviously try out aggressive builds and see how they work out. But a lot of it will depend on the other cards, and a lot of it will depend on what are other people playing.
Yep.
Okay, good rundown of the classes. I think that was like pretty comprehensive.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Well,
That's it.
I think
Cool.
that's it. Do you want to end on a question from the GOAT?
Sure. Question from the GOAT. So it was recently confirmed by Mike Dene on Arena HS on a post by Taro that they are considering or they are working on a stats page for the arena mode. If you look at Battlegrounds right now, you will see that they have a stats button. It currently does not work, but in the future, they want to show you your stats for Battlegrounds. And they are working on something like that for Arena as well. So the question, I'm going to pose it to you, is sort of what would you kind of like to see within the stats?
I don't think it's gonna happen.
Well, right. That is not part of the question. The question is, what would you like to see
And
in the stats?
and if stats have been possible this entire time, it's been 6 years now.
I
If
know.
they've been possible, and they just
They've been
haven't done
possible.
it. Not
Yes.
just for the arena, but you don't get constructed stats or anything either. That's gonna be a pretty interesting design choice for the last 6 years.
It is quite true. Okay, I will answer the question that you are failing to answer. Okay, so the stats that I really want to see are obviously the top 30 or your most recent 30 runs, your best 30 runs. I'd want to see like stats that HS Replay currently tracks as well. For example, your win rate against classes, your win rate with the coin, without the coin. I'd also want to see some fun stats that maybe every single time you open up the stats page that they tell you. If you guys aren't aware, Hearthstone sends you monthly emails sometimes, I don't think all the time, and they give you interesting stats. For example, like, oh, you magnetize this many mechs or something like that. So I'd want to see a rotating amount of stats like that as well. Just interesting, quirky stats. And it might change every single day, along with the standard sort of like win rates and um, sort of streak statistics that I think everyone wants to know. Because if you're going for the leaderboards right now, the only thing you can do is self track. And as we know, self tracking, there's a lot of times a difference between what we track and then what we ultimately see at the end, in which, I mean, that's not great. So I think it would be very, very helpful for them to actually track it in the game itself so you know where you stand.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Stats are great for all sorts of things. I just was very convinced that they had no ability to do it. Um, but Mike Dene did say that they were working on it for the arena, and they have literally never said that before on either arena or constructed. At no point has Blizzard said we are working on giving you like actual like stats outside of like a leaderboard. And now they're saying that they're working on it, so maybe they figured it out. It would be interesting to see what kind of stats that they think is important for the arena, right? Like, because they can go all sorts of different ways on it. And I'm sure some of the stuff they give you is going to be totally useless. Just being you're like, why do people think this is important?
I'm absolutely sure.
Yeah. But yeah, just even something as basic as like knowing your win rates for each class at whatever time period that either you or they specify. That's all very, very good. I mean, that's why we have outside systems to do this tracking. And I don't know. I guess Blizzard thought that if you were really hardcore enough to know these stats, you just get a third-party like system to track for you. But now they're finally bringing it into a more UI-friendly like in-game system.
Cool. All right. That's it for this week.
Question from the Goat brought to you by our patrons, patreon.com/grinninggoat. We are set now for our schedule, for our launch, for our Descents of Dragons launch schedule / Thanksgiving schedule. So what's going to happen is we are not canceling any streams. We normally cancel the Friday and Monday before the expansion launch, but we're just playing Battleground, so we're going to keep streaming through that. And we are adding bonus streams on Wednesday and Thursday after the expansion releases, both arena streams, and then maybe Saturday. Unconfirmed on whether Saturday will be added or not, but otherwise there would be 2 bonus streams for this upcoming expansion and no streams canceled before the expansion. And another reminder that the 8th, December 8th, is going to be our tier list live reveal stream. So that's always an exciting 6 to 10 hours of grueling preview and analysis. Also, this Friday's stream, I will be gone for Thanksgiving, and so Merps will be covering me. So you'll get an extra night of top 200, hopefully, Battlegrounds action on Black Friday. So definitely tune in for that. We'll see. And we are officially, we are now in a fundraise, or like a sub drive on Twitch.
A fundraise. You don't even...
I'm too old for this. We're in a sub drive. We haven't done a sub drive for more than a year, and we recently checked our sub counts. We don't usually like stare at the number, but I haven't looked at it for like quite a few months, and it's very low. And I did some math, and we're now making less than minimum wage. So this will be the get back to federal minimum wage sub drive. Woo! So we're hoping to get, and that number, by the way, to get to a federal minimum wage in America. Not the minimum wage for like New York City, but like the minimum wage for like Idaho. We need about 300 subs, and we're at like 150. So hopefully we're going to have a week-long sub drive. The sub drive will end after Sunday stream next Sunday. It'll go all the way through Thanksgiving, and hopefully we'll significantly surpass that mark, because we've historically had like around 500 subs pretty steadily. But that was like 6 months ago. Maybe even more than that.
Years ago.
It wasn't years ago. It was like literally like 6 or 9 months ago when I last checked it.
Seems like
so we have fallen quite a bit. That's what happens when you don't ask for subs. Because our stream size has decreased too, but not anywhere near that margin. So yeah, if you guys are listening to this on the podcast and you would like to contribute and you don't ever watch us on Twitch, so one, even if you don't ever watch us on Twitch, if you like swing by the stream and you have like an Amazon Prime subscription, if you swing by the stream and just give us your Amazon Prime subscription, which is entirely free to you, that would be super appreciated. You do have to remember to do it every month, but that would be a big help. Or you can also sign up at our Patreon for however much that you would like to feed the goat, and that's at patreon.com/grinninggoat. If you're watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast and you don't care about Twitch and streaming at all, that's a great way to contribute if you would like. Yeah, very, very grateful for all of your support over the years.
All right. That's it. Thank you, guys. Give us all your monies.
See you guys next week. Until then, this is Advicta.
This is Merps. Bye-bye.